So this is really nice to have you here, Max. Thank you just for giving us some of your time to do this podcast. So since it's the first time you've been doing a podcast with us, maybe not the last, but it's the first, could you introduce yourself just a little bit?
Yeah, I'm Max and I like drawing.
That's really quick.
Yes, so thank you for inviting me.
So I noticed in a previous interview that you did for Sketched a few years ago that you were talking about the kind of comic books you grew up with in Finland, because you're from Finland. Can you tell us a little bit more for a French audience also?
I was raised mostly by French and Belgian comics. Because they are being translated in Finnish for a very long time. Also, like Donald Duck is our national,
icon.
Yeah, we really relate to Donald Duck because he's grumpy and never succeeds in anything. But he tries his best. He has guts to do anything, and. Yeah, it was first with Asterix, Tintin, and Milou.
Our proper national icons.
Yeah. And I also got to know Mobius. And when I was 10, I read about Loisel's Peter Pan because our local librarians put it in the kids section because they thought, oh, it looks pretty. It must go to the children's section. My mom didn't like that. But yeah, so I have never been good at reading books, but I've been reading comics all my life and enjoying the heck out of them.
And at which point did you decide that you wanted also to make comic books and not just read them?
I kind of always wanted, but I have extremely autistic brain, and I thought that you have to have a certain style or certain nationality to be able to make comics. Because if you're Finnish, you can only do strip comics, like in newspapers, like Garfield or something like that, but less. But then I found this comic album by Petri Hiltunen, Ontot Kukkulat, which means hollow hills, which was about a troll and his witch girlfriend, and they went into these old mines and met an old god. And I read it and I was like, wait, this name is Finnish. So a Finnish person made this, so I could make comics. And then I found my older brother's Marvel and DC comics. And at the time, Spider-Man Clone Saga was just going on. And my brother had loads of Rob Liefeld drawn comics. So I thought, okay, I just have to draw like this guy.
So you wanted to draw like Rob Liefeld?
Yeah.
Harsh.
Yeah, so I just thought, because also Frank Jomita Jr., who is, I don't want to say way better, but we all know what we are all thinking. He has good anatomical things and he has good expressions and he makes different looking characters. I loved his series on Ben Reilly, The Lost Years. And I really fell in love with his style as well. But I was like, oh, that is so cool. And I tried to, of course, I didn't try to mimic anyone because I was sure that I have to draw everything by myself. And I didn't understand what studying art is. But I tried to be like Rob Liefeld for a very, very long time.
Maybe it's lucky that you did not succeed to draw like Rob Liefeld.
So when I was 18, I tried to apply for universities, but I couldn't get in on anything. And I went to a course in Inkeroinen, which is it's a small place in Finland, and they had a 1-year course on comics. And in there, Kari Laitinen, who was the teacher, he bought us a pile of books from different countries, from different makers that were not mainstream. There were Persepolis from Marianne Setrapi.
Yeah.
And there was 13th Floor, which I can't remember the author's name, but it was about relationship violence or violence in relationship. And then there was Greg Thompson's Blanket. And when I saw those, I was like, so you can draw stuff not like Rob Liefeld, and it will still be considered actual comics. Because at the time, I still thought that you had children's comics and then you had real comics. I was very biased as a kid. And I thought, like, you have to, if you want to be taken seriously, you have to be like Rob Liefeld. But then I understood that you don't have to do one certain style. You can do whatever you want. And even the Finnish comic scene is very narrow, and it was long held by white cis men, and they had a certain view on what comics can or cannot be. Like, they had a saying that if you beat a child, they won't watch anime anymore. So they are very prejudiced towards different styles and different ways of making comics. They thought that, yeah, you have to be Rob Liefeld.
But is it like something that someone said to you?
Yeah.
Like you cannot draw like that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's rude.
Yeah, and people like comics were not appreciated in the way they are in here.
Okay.
For example, I went to study graphic design because I think it was the closest to comics.
Mm-hmm.
And my teacher told me, like, you have to give up on doodling these things. They are childish. And I quit university that day. I was like, yeah, this is not for me. Goodbye. But again, I was really horrible student as well because I had ADHD, but I didn't know it at the time. So I had huge trouble of staying up during lectures, and half of the time the appointments, the assignments our teachers gave us, I couldn't understand what they wanted because my brain just like, I read the description. What did I read? I read the description. But I got some really good lessons from there. For example, if you have, when you do a commission, you can't change it part way. You have to give up on your perfectionism at least partly. So it was not a useless journey. But I had to give it up. And it was the first time I gave up anything. So it was really odd for me. But my mom and my dad were just like, yeah, it's not for you. Find another degree and do it, because they wanted me to have a university degree. And then I learned about Glundor University. And after the university in Lapland, I took a year off and I tried to apply for Angoulême, but they never answered to me because I don't speak French. And they never replied to any of my emails or letters. So I thought like, oh, well.
But you were writing them in English, not in Finnish. Right?
No, yeah, I was writing in English, but there was never any answer.
Okay.
So then,
too bad for you, for them, not you.
But then I got contact into Glundor University. I asked them in spring 2008, I think, that, hey, I want to come and study there. They answered like, that's cool. I gave them few questions about stuff over the summer, but they didn't reply to me fast enough. And I was like, I understand English. So I booked a flight to UK and I flew to London and I took a train to Wrexham and I went to the school. I was like, hi, I'm Max. I'm from Finland and I would like to study here. And they were like, oh, you're the Finnish person. Yeah, right. Sorry about that. And then Dan Berry gave me a tour in the area and he told me how to apply to the school. And on 2009, I started studying there. But I was, when you are young, 20-something, and you know everything about everything, but your whole personality is built on one thing only. For example, if you are good at writing, you are the writer. If you are good at theater, you are the actor in small places. And I knew that I wanted to make comics, and I can kind of draw quite okay. But then on our second year, I was really struggling with stuff because of the perfectionism, with the ADHD, and half narcissism. I wouldn't. I don't think it was narcissism. It was non-intended ill will towards everyone, and I couldn't take in the teachings, and I didn't know what to take from there.
Because you felt like you didn't have anything to learn from them?
It wasn't about not needing anything to learn. It was mostly because of I couldn't understand the assignments, and I didn't know what they wanted from me, because I hadn't learned to listen to people. But I met this absolutely fantastic young woman came to our course. She had transferred schools, so she hopped straight on second year. And I was like, oh, they just went to second year like that. Fine, that's good for them. That's good. I'm worthless. So my ego took a hard hit about it, because she was really super talented. She still is. She has her name is Rosie, and she has done stuff with that brand, with many things like Princeless and stuff. But yeah, she also was able to lose weight. So she succeeded in everything better than me. So I was like, yeah, I can't do comics. I can't do anything. So I thought I'm not cut out. I am not cut out to become a comic artist. So I quit. I told myself I will never draw again. And I quit for 2 years. I went back to Finland. I was completely depressed. And I remember that everything was grey during that period. I was absolutely depressed. Outside, I was quite happy. I took part in local comic society and stuff. So I did look around, but I didn't produce anything until I quit my job as an art shop manager. And I tried to become a nurse. I was horrible at it, because Finland can be quite racist, unfortunately. And I can't stand people being mean to each other for any reason. So I couldn't keep my mouth shut. So I quit being a nurse, and I was looking for a way to be anything. And my mom said, like, give 1 more year for art. And I went to this Kymenlaakson opisto, and they had 1 year course on basically any art. And I remember going there, and it was an early fall morning. The classroom was quite quiet, and I took a paper, and I told myself, I have to fill this paper. I can't take on another paper, but I will fill this paper. And I made a watercolor drawing, and all the colors came back to me. And I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And that was absolutely a blast of a year. And there I learned that I'm a really horrible student, because I can't listen, and I'm really stubborn. And when I realized this, it made me take a step back and understand that I have to start listening, and I have to take input from people, not just give. I would be a better teacher than I am a student. And after that, my dad said, like, when I was thinking, like, oh, where do I apply now? I want to do art. And he said, oh, you haven't finished your stuff in Wales. And they said that they will help me financially if I decide to go back to Wales. And I phoned Dan, like, Dan, can I come back, please? And they said, yeah, sure. And I went back, and I had completely different view on the world. I was more outgoing, and I was taking more from the teachers. And there was one teacher who only met me once on my previous visit, and it was life drawing. And I had me, a grown-ass woman, 22 years old, sitting on the floor, smashing on the paper, because I was just like, I don't like to do things any other way than my way, because they were trying to teach us another way of doing live drawing. And I couldn't take it because I know this thing works for me. I do it like this. It wasn't malevolent. It wasn't. I wasn't being mean. It was because of the stupid autistic brain, not understanding. Why should I learn another way if I know that this thing works?
Yeah.
But now I took in all the lessons I could get from my teachers. And for example, when the lecturers came, I was able to stay up and not sleep, because I was like, okay, I will take in one thing from their speech. I don't know what it is, but I will take something out of it. And that way I went throughout all the lectures and everything else, because I just thought, there is something I need to learn. I don't know yet what it is, but I will take that one thing from there. And if there is another thing, that's good. But if there's not, then it's fine. So the teachers were happy to see me like actually, being an adult and being happy with what I did. When they said like, this is not good, do this. At first I was like, okay, you didn't like this, so I have to remake all of this. No. Do this one part. And that was something I had to also learn. Like, if they say, remove one pen, I have to remove one pen. I do not have to reorganize the pens. I don't have to bring on another pens or remove all the pens. It's just one pen. And it was so good to learn in a new way in there with new kind of demeanor. So it was much easier for me to learn and for them easier to teach. And even if we had to butt heads sometimes, like they wanted me to do a children's book. And I had an idea for it. And the teacher said like, you should try this way. And my face looked like I had swallowed a lemon. I was like,
No.
No. So I'm still really hard-headed. But I have learned to appreciate people's input on everything. And I try to, even if I don't agree wholeheartedly on something, if there is one thing I can pick, I try to pick that one thing.
Okay. Because when you decided also that you wanted to do comic books for a living, you knew that you would have to work with other people. And then, especially if you're the artist and there's a writer, that you had to listen to the writer. Yeah. So was it like something challenging for you at the beginning?
At the beginning, no. It was when I was 20 or something. My 20s, when I hit 19, I was a horrible human being until I was 31. And everyone is like, it was nice to be 25. I'm just like, no. 25-year-old Max was a train wreck. Don't be with them. They were horrible. But when I started to work with John, I realized that John is the writer. I'm only drawing stuff. That is my job. I don't do anything else. I don't comment on the stories. I don't do anything of that because that's John's expertise.
So that was when John came to you. So John Allison for the comic book series Giant Days. So he came to you?
Actually, it was because Dan Berry, my teacher in Clundor University, is friends with John Allison. And Lisa Trayman, who was the artist in Giant Days before me, absolute legend. Her style is so, it was so good. And, but yeah, John told Dan that Lisa is quitting. She's getting married and she's working for this company called Disney.
A small company.
Yeah, small company.
You never heard about them.
Yeah. And Lisa is quitting Giant Days. And I need an artist. And Dan was just like, hey, I got just the right person for you. Because Dan saw my talent before I knew about it. Because I still was procrastinating. I tried my best, but I was really bad at letting go of stuff. I had finished an 8-page comic in half a year before Giant Days.
That wouldn't make a deadline for a publisher.
Ever. So Dan contacted me and said, Max, be cool. Some people will contact you in near future about a job. I was like, okay, that's cool. Oh, thank you, Dan. And then Boom Studios contacted me, asked me to do 2 exemplary pages. They sent me scripts. And I was being my nitpicky self, like asking, just making sure that I got all the characters right and all the, if I had all the references and all of that. And I made these 2 pages over a weekend, which was good. And they were like, yeah, we are going to hire you now. Can you do 22 pages in the next 2 weeks? Yeah. And I did 22 pages in 18 days.
Oh, wow.
That was still pencils, just because I was like, I'm the good student. And because if I do these in 18 days, I get to take a break for 3 days. That was my logic. And 5 days. Yeah, 5 days. I get to take a break for 5 days.
Sounds legit.
But instead, they're like, no, good, ink them now. And I'm just like, but
I just did the pencils.
Yeah, where's my 5 days? But I kept on the deadlines.
But really, you were. I'm sorry. But you were already working digitally at this time.
Yes, because if I work, I used to work traditionally. But I soon realized that working traditionally, I would still be working with the first issue of Giant Days.
Okay, so they asked you to do the inks in 5 days, and you did them.
No. They gave me like 15 days for it as well. And then it was like, it was usually like a month to do 1 issue. And I was doing my schoolwork at the same, I was working on my dissertation or designing it. I only spent like 10 days to my dissertation in the end because I kept like postponing it. I'm a horrible student. Sorry, Dan. And Sue and Yaja. But yeah. So come winter assessments, I went to my teachers and they was like, hi, Max, you've been doing so well. Oh, now she's crying. Max, are you okay? I can't take this anymore. And I was so tired and I was such an anxious mess because I hate being late. I was so nervous about being late. And Dan said like, oh, you can't quit Giant Days. It's fine. But ask John and ask Boom first if there is a compromise. So they got in an inker who did the inks on the pencils. So I was still being anal about the pencils all the time. And the inker, she did tremendous job considering she had so little time, so little pay. She was paid $20 per page.
Oh.
That is, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Boo for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, she wasn't, and because I'm perfectionist and I have certain, if I make a smile, it has to be a smile. It can't be a smirk or a smirk can't be a smile. And Liz she has amazing style herself, but she did her inks her way. And I wasn't a fan of it. It's because
it didn't fit your style and your drawings.
Yes.
Okay.
But I never complained because it's like, I knew how hard she was working. And I was giving her pencils like 2 hours before deadline. So of course she was doing her best. And it took me a year. And then I asked her not to draw the below lip because I never drew it.
Mm.
And she quit like 2 weeks later. And I was like, oh my God, I really insulted her. I hate myself. And then they asked me like, do you want to do the inks yourself? I'm like, yeah, I want to do them.
And you felt ready to be able to do them with the deadline? Yeah,
because, but I started, I had been working for Giant Days for 3 years by then, and no breaks. It was always like one issue, 1 month, one issue, 1 month. And my creative juice was all gone. And then I contacted Boom like, can I have a break at some point? Because I'm dead. Mm-hmm. And then John was, again, he was so nice. John is always nice. John can't be anything but nice. I think it's his factory setting to be nice and polite and offer you tea if you have problems. Mm-hmm. And Boom helped me. Like, they were like, of course, we will find someone to
do a film.
Yeah. Mm. And they found a marvelous artist herself. And why am I losing the name? This is Maria. I really want that name now. But I can't remember.
Should I look for it?
No, I hate being like this with names. If I haven't said the name in a year, I will forget it. I spent a year with my aunt when I was a kid. My mom phones me 2 weeks later. I was like, how are you doing? What have you been doing? And I said, oh, me and my cousin and that lady who lives here went to the beach. Oh, you mean your Aunt Leah? I said, yeah, that's
someone
the one.
Called Fleming?
No,
is the name Fleming?
No. That's Liz Fleming was the Inca.
Okay.
It's she's Spanish originally.
Kogar? No,
that's the Whitney Goga was the colorist. Whitney is amazing because whenever I fell flat,
Madrigal.
Yes, thank you. See, I had the M, and I was like, it was Madrigal, or am I just thinking about Encanto again?
Julia Madrigal.
It was Julia Madrigal. That's fine. I was like, no, it's not. That's not right, it's Julia.
Thank you, internet.
But Julia Madrigal took on 2 months, and she was full-time working at the time. She was full-time working in a comic shop, and she did the pages.
And she did the pages.
Yeah.
All the more working in a comic shop.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, you freaking machine.
Yeah. Is she a robot? Maybe?
Yeah. I was like, I mean, what? Darling, please. And she did a tremendous job. No one can fault her. She did get some people were just like complaining about style being different, but we all have our own favorite artists. I know that if some series have had different artists for a story, I may be like, oh no, but it's like part of being a fan. But I am a fan of Julia Madrigal. And, but yeah, I was talking about Whitney Goga, the colorist. She did such tremendously good job with Giant Days. I think I remember like whenever I got the new issue or new volume, I was like, Whitney is a star. Oh my God. Because wherever I fell flat or my inks were not good, on my own eyes, Whitney corrected them. She just like gave them CPR and suddenly everything was alive again. So she's absolutely a true star.
Did you feel like something changed maybe for you in the industry after Giant Days won some Eisner Awards?
Not really. In Finland, it was really big. I remember telling John, because John was like, oh, he kept having a tea. But I was contacted by the president to go to a presidential ball in the Independence Day.
Okay,
true story. That's what that's really a whole. It tells a lot about Finnish nature. Even in Harley Quinn, I've done some Finnish Easter eggs in that. There is like a phrase "torille," which means we shall meet at the town square and celebrate.
Okay.
And but after Eisner's, not really. In Finland, I was noticed more. People are like, "Oh, Max Sarin is a person who's in Finland." Cool. But after Giant Days ended, and I did Wicked Things.
Yeah,
but
with John.
Yeah, but John was dead tired on Wicked Things. He was. You can see it in the writing because there is Charlotte being accused of stuff she didn't do, and she can't wear her own clothes, and she's just like can't do anything her way. And I think that was John.
Okay.
But it was a brilliant comic. I love how he wrote it. And I liked drawing it, but we were both so tired. I was supposed to have half a year break from Giant Days until Wicked Things. But I got a month.
Okay.
Or not even a month. So I was just so tired and I couldn't hit deadlines anymore. And I think it was after Julia. I haven't hit a single deadline in my work, which is really unfortunate. And I'm ashamed of it. But at the same time, I couldn't cope with stuff. And I keep apologizing people. And thankfully, all my editors are angels. I can do commissions in time, but comics, with Harley Quinn, there were some other issues which I won't be talking about now.
Okay.
But with Wicked Things, I thought like, yeah, I should just quit comics. I can't draw comics anymore because I'm not fast enough to be in American industry.
And it's too tiring for you.
Yeah, and I was like, well, I will become a teacher now, or perhaps I could become a plumber. How can I study to become a plumber? Plumbers make nice money, yes? But
it's quite different from drawing, right?
Yeah, it was. But I was like, I could be an electrician. Because I have a curly hair, and it always looks like I was electrified at some point. But I kept drawing and I made the commissions and I enjoyed it. And I was like, I do want to draw. I want to make comics. I love comics. Comics are my passion. And my girlfriend said, why don't you apply to DC or Marvel?
Okay.
And I laughed at her face like, DC or Marvel or Dark Horse. No, darling, they would never, ever hire me. My style is not their cup of tea. And next day I got an email from DC saying, like, oh, we have this project. Would you like to be part of it? I was like,
yes.
Yeah. Is this a prank? Is this a prank? And they were like, yeah, we just want you to do this thing with Harley Quinn. I was like, sure.
Because you...
And I'm Max Sarin. You're not... No, they said Max. That's weird. My therapist told me to print out the email and tattoo it on my arm. So I wouldn't be so doubtful of myself all the time. But yeah, DC contacted me and I kept laughing like, this can't be happening. It was like, I describe it like sitting in a cardboard box and you have drawn a car. And this Formula race boss comes to you and like, hey, wanna come and drive in the NASCARs? And you're just like, oh, jolly gee, yes, mister. And then there I am in my cardboard box, ready to pedal.
Okay, and so have you watched the animation series when they contacted you?
I hadn't watched it, and I watched it after it completely legally.
Okay, so we won't post this podcast to DC people.
I watched it, and I was a bit. I'm not a violent person. I like I did my university dissertation on slashers. Okay. So I watch a lot of horror, but with Harley Quinn, the animated series, the violence was very upsetting for me. Well, upsetting is the wrong word. It was like I didn't see the fun in it.
Okay.
It's like Rick and Morty is a bit too much for me.
Okay.
I'm more of a Steven Universe guy. But I enjoyed the humor. I enjoyed how they made Batman. I loved Batman in there, and I love Alfred over everyone. I think Alfred Pennywise is the best DC character ever to exist. And I love Gordon. Gordon is such a mess. And I like the Batgirl. I liked all the characters. I love the show. It's I don't like the violence, but I love the characters. There are so many. It's written brilliantly.
Yeah.
So when I was watching it, I was like, "This is amazing," and I was looking forward to it. They said like, "We just want you to draw this honeymoon of Harley and Ivy," and I was like, "Absolutely, yes. Freaking yeah!"
And since all the more important that it's like the first time ever that DC published a comic book where Harvey and Ivy are in a relationship.
Yeah,
because it was like subtly said in several comic books. So there, I think it's in the Injustice comic book from Tom Taylor also. They were into something, but like really, like we've got a full frontal kiss and stuff like that, because DC had really like many issues to just depict the relationship between two women. Yeah. So that was quite I don't know, a step forward.
Yeah, I was looking forward to it because at the first when I looked at the show, I was like, this feels like queer baiting.
Yeah.
It felt so much like queer baiting. But thankfully they didn't do it after all. Like it wasn't like, oh, and when Ivy went together with Kite Man, I was like, oh, this is such fan service for the nerdy guys again. Freaking hell. And I know that many people take Kite Man's side on this without understanding that they are two adult people. Even if they are characters, they are two adult people. And sometimes you just don't work together. And it was so well written in the series where you could see like Poison Ivy was just like, I can't do this. I love this man, but I want to love this man. She didn't love him, but she wanted to love him. And that's a big difference. But at the same time, Harley's a mess. Harley's
totally. And was it I don't know, like difficult for you just to to own these characters with your own style, which is perfectly fitted for the book, I think.
Thank you. When I started Giant Days, John told me, "Do you?" And I have always been like, because I am a big fan of Lisa Treyman, but when I saw her work, I was like, I can never do anything like that. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And
no point.
because the Giant Days, when I started it, it's so stiff. And I know my own mistakes. When I look at the first Giant Days, I know like I tried so hard and got nowhere on my own view. And so when I started to do the Harley Quinn, I was like, I can't do superhero. Oh, I'm Max, and that's all I can do. And I can only do me. So I went on like, I just do these with my own style. I took on the designs that the TV show has, like the facial features. But I'm not trying to emulate the show itself because they had their own special team and their own special skill. And so, for example, when there is I got to draw Batman. And I was like, I can make his ears go flat when he's annoyed. And I did. And just these small things that I could do.
Small details.
Yeah. And I think I'm so happy that I could do them. Even if it's annoying that T was more in our editorial team. Lovely people. Love them. Katie's amazing. And Ben, who came into the board as well, was so nice. But they have to listen to the big bosses and who said, no nudity. And I remember doing the first sex scene with them being when they are in the toilet. It was meant to be implied that Harley gave Ivy head.
Okay.
only by just saying like she was only supposed to lick her lips when she comes from the toilet, but that was too much.
Okay.
And also when
because you knew that there was also like a small controversy about the animated show when they wanted to do a scene when Batman is giving head to Catwoman, and they said like heroes don't do that.
Yeah,
so I guess
I was like, so heroes are not helping other people.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm sad that she made the good joke about Batman doesn't like that he doesn't like cats.
Pussies, of all cats. I don't know how it's in the original version, but I saw the joke in French version.
Yeah, and I was just like, they could have done it, but then again, I was thinking about Batman. I was like, yeah, he must be clueless about giving head. I mean, he's. I love that version of Batman. He was such a. I loved his temper tantrums.
Okay, but so except for the nudity thing, there was no stuff that you couldn't draw in this comic book.
No, they allowed pretty much everything except the nudity. And also after they had sex in the first issue, I had to draw the page 3 times because, well, not 3 times. I just have to give 3 edits for it. Because at first they were naked, but with stars on their genital and nipple area. But they were like, no. Okay, fine, I put Harley on a shirt. But then she has to have panties as well. And the funny thing is, if you only look at the inkings before the brilliant colors, it's only 1 line of the panties. It's like there are 2 lines I added, nothing else. And it's the same with Ivy's bum in the next page, I think.
Okay, so we're looking at the pages.
Yeah. Look at the pages, and there's Ivy's bum. Mm-hmm. There's just that 1 line that makes it into panties. Okay, yeah,
that's a trick. That's a trick.
And it's so silly. It's like it's a butt. They had sex, big deal. But that's the European thing, because in Europe we are used to people having sex. We are okay with sex, but for example, in the 3rd issue, there was a point where. Even in the 2nd issue, the hyenas are eating the police officer.
Yeah. And so they're not vegetarians at all.
They are not vegetarian. And the writer wanted that to have like blood and gore everywhere.
I was surprised that the comic book was really less gory than the animated shows.
And that is my fault. Because I told them that I don't want to draw blood, guts and gore, because there is so much of it in the world. So because I know it's some people find it really boring, but at the same time, I don't want to have those things on my eyelids. When I go to sleep, because it's too much to have more violence and more violence. And in the 3rd issue, we have that one waiter who got his skull crushed, and he wanted more blood and gore in there. And I was like, I can draw blood just splatting.
Yeah.
And it's mostly because of like just personal issues. I always find it like when I even if I made my dissertation on slashers, I appreciate psychological horror, like Babadook.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because, or Sixth Sense was my favorite film for a long, long time. And it's only because it's when the horror happens in your mind, it's more horrific. But when you have like, you have the Cross is one of the American comics, which has that the guys have some illness that makes them violent. Crossed.
Awful.
Yeah, and I remember when I ran into it, and I was like, "This is porn, but it's torture porn."
Yeah, did you not faint because it's really hardcore?
Yeah, I don't faint really because I'm just like I'm more just disgusted.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And I have friends who love gore. They make gore art, and I'm just like, I love you, but I don't want to see your art. And it's only because when I made Giant Days, or whenever I draw something, my aim is that there is some person out there who smiled or gave a chuckle. So when they put the book down, I want them to be feeling content or happy, or just like, I don't want to worsen their day. So whereas like crossed is like, it doesn't make anyone's day good.
No.
And I am not against the people who created it. I'm not against about any of it, but it's just like,
it's just not for you.
It's not for me. There are some people get their kicks of that, and some people just enjoy it, and it's absolutely fine. And I'm more than happy to being the poor, boring artist who doesn't draw blood and guts. I remember being 10 and being like, I want blood and guts and penises everywhere. Like, they have to be severed heads and everything. I will draw all of that because Rob Liefeld is a legend. But now as an adult, and because I know what I want the comics I want them to brighten someone's day. And for example, when I make, there is when Gordon is having they are at a Catwoman's apartment in the van, in the, what's the word? You know, the TV cameras, the
CCTV?
Yeah, CCTV. I made a pigeon that slowly comes closer throughout the panels, and it just fills the screen. And I like doing those kind of small jokes.
Yeah, the small scenes, it reminds me a little bit of Don Rosa's.
Yeah, he's my... He
always put the small scenes in the panels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don Rosa he's an absolute god. I know that he's not a fan favorite in America, but I know that in France he's just like, everyone is like, oh, Don Rosa is here. And I know that in Finland they have made an album, music album about Scrooge McDuck.
We all grew up with the use of Scrooge McDuck in France, I think.
Yeah, because Don Rosa, I think he downplays himself as well. And I know some people say like, but his style is a bit stiff. And I just say, it's detailed and it's full of passion. And you can see the passion. And he's so expressive. There's so many good things. I remember seeing Don Rosa in Paris when I was last time. And I was like, Don Rosa is there. I'm just few meters away from him. This queue is 10 hours long and I have to be signing over there. Freaking hell.
So I don't want you to be late to your signing just after this podcast, but I've also to ask you one last question. What difference do you feel about making a creator-owned comics compared to licensed comic books? Well, something really different for you in terms of, I don't know, creative freedom or stuff like that?
I would love to do my own comics, but unfortunately, I am still a procrastinator, and it's easier to follow someone else's lead. So for example, when John writes, I do what he writes, but when I write a story, I start drawing it. I'm just like, this is shit. I will start I will restart everything.
But you're always your worst critic.
Yeah.
Yourself,
So that's why I'm trying to slowly now. I made characters on my when I was 14, and I'm now finally starting to write the story out, and I'm planning on One Punch Man it, which means like that I will draw it and just draw it. Don't care what it looks like, just get it done. And after it's finished, I can redraw it to be better how I want it. But that will come out when I'm 70, I think.
Okay. Well, thank you very, very much for your time. It was really a great discussion with you. And I hope you enjoy your stay in France. And we'll meet again when you come back.
Hopefully. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.